would be Flamingo, and the second is Grand Canyon. Don't engage my driver. Back up. Hey, back up. Back up. You're not involved. You can film, but you need to stay away from my driver. Back up. Back up or I'm going to detain you. We're obstructing. Get away from my car stop. Okay. Listen. She deserves privacy. This is not your business.
I'm a member of the press. Go get in your car and do your job.
Okay.
Go feed her.
You're being detained right now. And you're free to go.
Oh, she's you're gonna.
Come over to my car. Come over to my car. Come over to my car right now.
Don't put
Come
your
over.
fucking hands
Listen,
on me.
I am going to put my hands on you.
No, you're not.
Control 3 Robert 1.
I gotta make sure. Hey guys, make sure you guys get my people on the phone.
I have an obstructive male here who's filming me.
So you ended the stop.
Yes.
2015.
Come over here to my car.
Yeah.
Come over here.
Yeah.
I need additional unit.
Bring your supervisor,
I need this obstructive.
Bring your supervisor, please. Don't
Come
touch
over
me.
to the car. I am going to grab you. You are going to go to the ground.
Don't grab me.
Listen, you are detained right now.
No, first get your supervisor out here. You're not just
I don't
going
need
to
a
grab
code
me
red,
and throw
but
me on
he's
the ground.
arguing with me. I just need additional unit.
You've already released him. This is 2015 Rodriguez versus United States.
Come over to my car.
I'll walk right in front of your car.
I am Officer Bork. You're being detained for obstruction. You need to set the phone down on the hood.
I'm a constitutional law scholar. You can't take away
Set
my
the phone down on the hood.
I'm now.
You're being detained. Now you're going to put hands on me.
No,
Come over here.
Why are you grabbing me?
Come over here to the car.
Sure.
Let him over here.
Let the phone roll.
I don't care about the phone.
Why are you grabbing me?
Turn around.
I'm a member of the press.
Turn around.
I'm not doing anything.
You're being detained right now. Turn around.
Get your supervisor.
Stop.
Hold on. Wait.
Stop.
Are your cameras on? Are your cameras on?
Yeah, it's on.
Okay, then
Put
don't
your hands
put me
behind
in
your back.
No.
You're going in handcuffs.
Why?
Put your hands behind your back.
Can we slow down? Get a supervisor. I haven't done anything wrong.
Put your hands behind your back.
I haven't done anything wrong.
Don't make me use some tactics.
If you want to detain me, then detain me
I am
here.
putting you in handcuffs.
But I'm not putting my hands behind my back.
You're facing the hood.
I'll face the hood.
Policy to put it behind.
Listen,
be behind your back.
Right now, you're going to get a ticket.
For what?
If you do not put your hands behind your back, you're going to jail. Put your hands behind your back.
Can I turn my camera around to face me?
No.
Can we agree on?
No, I don't know if you have any weapons.
I don't have any weapons.
Stop reaching.
There's no weapons on me, guys.
Stop
I'm a journalist. I'm a constitutional law scholar. You extended a stop to.
Put your hands behind your back or you're going to jail. I'm placing you in handcuffs right now.
For what reason?
Turn around.
For officer safety, right?
Turn around for officer safety.
Okay. Is the camera still running, guys? The camera's still running. I'm facing your car like you're asking me to do.
I don't care about the camera. Put your hand behind your back. Do not reach for this phone.
Chille swats the hand away. Bork hadn't touched him, but Chille swats the hand away, and that's when he grabbed Chille and pushed him. And you hear a little bit of a scuffle going on. Now, he didn't think Chille was attacking him. That's why Chille didn't get charged with assault. And if you notice, he then escorted DeCastro. No, he almost had to chase Chille because Chille was running away from him to the car. DeCastro admitted that at first he refused, but complied when the officer grabbed him. Okay, now watch this next part. Castro testified that he's a member of the press on numerous occasions. Again, what does that have to do with it? That he made no effort to physically swat at the officer. Yet it's on the video, yet they both talked about it in court. Mr. DeCastro correctly surmised that, I think from the officer's testimony, you can see he's scared of the driver, scared of me, scared of everything. They teach him to be afraid of everything. Now, is that in the trial? I don't think it is. I don't think he said that in the trial. An officer is not trained to be afraid. They're trained to be suspicious. You do not know what someone's doing. You don't know the person. You don't know if they're going to help you. You don't know if they're going to try and kill you. So that's what officer safety is about. It's not about trying to find a reason to put someone in jail. It's about going home at the end of the day. And you know Chille doesn't give a crap about that. And then again, here we go. Though the officer explained the sole female occupant pulled over for a minor traffic offense was cooperative, she could have been armed. Yeah. How many times have you seen these videos where someone pulls over, the guy's talking nice, all of a sudden there's a gun at the cop's face, or they find a gun in the car afterwards? It happens. The officer claimed Castro could have been armed and dangerous even though he identified as a member of the press. Exactly. Chille doesn't have a press pass. Chille doesn't have any identification. He's got a damn cell phone. I've got a cell phone. You probably have a cell phone. Does that make us all members of the press? If it did, I sure hope that both of us were a little more consistent with our staying out of the action and just filming the damn thing like real journalists do. Bork testified that Castro was as far as 10 feet from him when he first observed him filming. No, he said he was... Well, he probably was 10 feet away from him because he's in the car. That's a car length. But he was not 10 feet away from the driver. Again, he's trying to twist the words here. When the officer is clearly agitated and frustrated and does not appear fearful in any manner, he's aggressive as depicted in the video. Not fearful at all. What's funny is, I look at that video and I see Bork being very calm, probably too damn patient with him. I do not see an aggressive person at all. Now, the officer testified to a technique utilized in the police academy where an attacker can reach a police officer within 21 feet under certain circumstances. He labeled this the 21-foot rule. That probably was the problem right there, is he called it a rule. It's a guideline, and it is part of police training. And again, I've made a video on this if you want to watch it. And it uses part of Mythbusters. And basically, the 21 feet is how long it takes a person to react, pull a gun, and fire. That's 21 feet. That's if you're watching the guy. Now, if you're distracted, and this is the important part, if you're dealing with someone in the car and you've got someone like Chille moving around, yelling, distracting, if you don't pay attention for someone for a split second and he charges you at that second, that 21 feet is not enough. Not by even close. This was presented as a valid piece of evidence by the state without regard to any legal authority. Well, unfortunately for Chille, it was reviewed and upheld by the Nevada Supreme Court. Nevada Supreme Court said officer safety is paramount. Now in this part, if you followed anything that's gone on this past week, do you recall any interaction defendant you told me you believe First Amendment auditors often pull out guns and shoot people? Officer replied, I didn't say that they often do that. And just this past week, 4 officers got shot by an auditor when they tried to serve him. Additionally, officer testified the driver probably would not want a random person approaching and recording. This has nothing to do with the charged offenses, but it has to do with what Chille's trying to insist. I know if I'm being pulled over, I don't want some moron coming up to me and asking me, oh, I'm okay. It's none of his damn business. I'm already irritated enough I'm getting a ticket, so I'm just trying to get it over with. I don't need him getting in the middle, pissing the officer off, and I'm going to have to pay the results of it. You know. Again, and here we go. Officers seem confused with the motives for the arrest. Video also demonstrates Bork could have completed the citation if he had not become so frustrated that he decided to let the driver go so he could pursue his unconstitutional behavior. Well, first of all, that's not Chille's, declaring it unconstitutional in this doesn't make it so. And again, Nevada Supreme Court says it is. And then here he goes again. Again, I don't know what his intentions is. I don't know if he's armed. All I saw him recording, which again I had no issue with. And I told him I didn't have an issue with. It's right on the videotape. You can film, but back up. He didn't say he recognized you as a member of the press. He said he could film. And yeah, what does one have to do with the other? Just because you got something in one hand doesn't mean you got something, you know, in your pocket, small of your back. Put a gun anywhere, put a knife anywhere. As can be easily depicted from the video, the distance between DeCastro and the officer can easily be compared to the infamous image of citizens filming from the back of a police cruiser during the murder of George Floyd. Now this different thing. If you remember the Floyd incident, that was at an intersection, narrow street, and they were trying to get people to move back up, because Floyd was still moving, struggling, whatever. I'm not going to get into whether it was right or wrong. And the people were getting close, and they were asked to back up and back up. Like, no one's heard of Zoom anymore. No one knows how to push the little Zoom button. Now here we go. This is definitely Chille writing this. Would the state of Nevada prefer the state of Minnesota and the federal government prosecute the filmers of the George Floyd murder and perhaps suppress the evidence? What the hell does that have to do with his case? What does that statement have to do? That's sort of a little bit insulting to Nevada. In order to sustain a conviction here, this is what the state of Nevada is arguing. No, they said you were guilty of obstruction. Nothing to do with filming. And here we go again. Neither the federal government nor the state of Minnesota had any ridiculous notion that the bystanders filming the murder should be prosecuted based on the imaginary 21-foot rule. There is no 21-foot rule. It's a guideline for officer safety. It's a reaction time in their training, nothing more. And yeah, the cop can tell you, give you a lawful order, back up. And if you don't, that's obstruction. Simple. Okay, now this is where Chille goes off the rails here. And if you can't tell, I don't think Oram had much of anything to do with this. The story I keep hearing is Oram was busy with the murder trial still, or parts of it. Chille was left with Oram's assistant and was dictating all this to him. And I'm sure Chille, being Chille, was either insistent, pushy, or whatever, and it made it through. The only thing I cannot figure out is why Oram signed this dumpster fire. Anyway, so because DeCastro did not capture police brutality against the motorist, he must be guilty. Although in federal court, Castro will be able to bring, again, what's with the lawsuit? It has nothing to do with his case. That's trying to intimidate them with a lawsuit, which is laughable. You know, grabbed DeCastro in violation of the first, 4th, 14th Amendments. No citations. How is it unlawful? Alternatively, if he had captured police brutality, it was covered all over the mainstream press, DeCastro be named a hero and would have not been found guilty. Yeah, wishes were horses, beggars are dried. There's no police brutality. There's nothing. Chille was an idiot. Oh God, there's only about 20 pages left. Never seemed to occur to defense counsel, a prosecutor, or the trial court the imaginary 20 would have caused back to Floyd again. Seemed to go over because it's not a rule, it's not a law, it's a guideline. And since Chille doesn't believe in officer safety, he will never understand it. And then this is a real topper. Additionally, a question of concern must be addressed if DeCastro was an African American and the driver of the vehicle was an African American female. Would the state have prosecuted this case? That's like supposition. I just don't know what to say about that one. It's just plain stupid. Okay, so here's the arguments, which that was supposedly the facts we just went through, so if you can believe that one. But here's the arguments. And basically, First Amendment protection. No law respecting, blah, blah, blah. We all know that part. To affirm these convictions, the court would have to determine that De Castro, as a member of the press and member of the public, does not have the right to film a police officer. So basically, he's still trying to argue that they arrested him for filming the cop, and then they stopped him filming the cop, when right from the beginning, Bork says, you can film, that's okay, but back up. So what isn't sinking in with Chille? I mean, I know he wants to push this narrative, but it is totally unrelated to the facts at hand, as much as this appeal is unrelated to the case at hand. Anyway, the trial judge determined De Castro is guilty of obstruction. At no point did the trial judge address had a right to pursue the First Amendment to film. And yeah, she did say, she said that Bork stated it was okay. This is not about the First Amendment. You can film. That's not an issue at hand here. The issue is, and you notice that none of that she said that it was not about the First Amendment. It was about obstruction. None of that makes it into this. Okay, now, constitutional right to film public officials. We're kind of... Okay, first of all, United States Court of Appeals for the First Circuit. Nevada, the closest you can go is the Ninth Circuit, I believe. So the First Circuit isn't really applicable here. I mean, it's a long shot, and they can just totally ignore it, even, and it's assuming it's on point. Yeah, and if you read through it, Glick was arrested for using a cell phone, arrested in violation, disturbing the peace, and aiding the escape of the prisoner. Then brought a suit, blah, blah, blah. Qualified immunity. He began filming from approximately 10 feet away. But I bet you if we go look at that, we'll probably find that he was asked to back up or something as well. Or he was actually involved with it. Anyway, we're going to skip through this because it's just unrelated. Mills versus Alabama. You know, it's just one thing after another that is not. Now here's a law enforcement granted substantial discretion that may be misused. All cops, judges, lawyers, all can do things at their discretion. That's why they have the training. That's why they're held accountable, whether Chille thinks so or not. Judges are held accountable. It's called a judicial review. It's called the appellate court. And judges do get sanctioned, whether he thinks so or not. Okay, so I'm just trying to find my note. I skipped a few pages here because it's just mind-numbing. And it goes on and on about filming. And again, like here, like this is images of bystanders filming police murdering George Floyd are etched into American culture and history. The infamous images depict several of the public standing in close proximity to police while criticizing and filming. The image of the police officer attempting to back the bystanders up while being taunted are memorable. The police didn't like being filmed. Police in the George Floyd case didn't like being filmed. Bork didn't like being filmed. They also didn't like being criticized. What has that have to do with his case of obstruction? Where is the law? What is the law that's been broken, misused, misapplied? That's what the appeal is about. He wasn't told to stop filming. He wasn't arrested for filming. He was arrested for obstruction. He was actually allowed to film all the way up to the point where they put the handcuffs on him. So, skip ahead here. This conviction is chilling to the protections guaranteed by the First Amendment. Still on filming. May cause the public to fear of filming police. Conduct for fear of arrest. The insulted officer, highly sensitive, simply stated while filming, De Castro refused to back up, even though video evidence proves otherwise. The officer then claimed he could not carry duties because of officer safety. It's funny though that the video evidence shows the officer being correct and Chille not exactly following the instructions, not exactly backing up, and not exactly being cooperative. So why are you putting stuff like this in here when it's, you know, the appellant judge can review the video just like anyone else. Does anyone else think that you've heard so far, does anyone else think this might be Chille writing this, or do you still think Oram wrote this? No, make a comment. So anyway, we carry on. Here, Mr. DeCastro desired to film the police officer from at least 10 feet away. While criticizing the officer, it became apparent the anger and frustration was far too much for this officer. The officer then used hostile physical contact to exact revenge. Again, watch the video. Bork tries to steer him to the car so he could detain him and find out what was going on. Basically what he did, he closed one investigation with the car because he said he was essentially finished with her, and moved on, opened a new investigation, detained DeCastro, and figured out what was going on with that. But of course, Chille thinks he got arrested for filming. Now, here's some of the arguments here that start getting. Count 1 must be dismissed because the NRS are void, be unconstitutional, vague, and ambiguous. Well, it's only vague or ambiguous if you don't speak English, or you have a very low IQ. Every person who shall willfully hinder, delay, obstruct any public officer in the discharge of official powers or duties shall, where no other provision of law applies, be guilty of misdemeanor. Willfully resists, delays, or obstructs. So willfully means no. You just say no. That's willfully. Hinder. I'm not moving. Delay. I'll go when I'm good and ready. Obstruct. That's what obstruction means. Hey. Anyway. Now, you can argue that it's vague. It could be worded better, but it's still clear enough that it's been upheld. Again, Nevada Supreme Court. And again, now this next part goes into, yeah, this is funny. Fails to provide a person of ordinary intelligence fair notice of what is prohibited. At no point does the officer have to explain the law to you. They might be nice enough to tell you what you're getting your ass arrested for or what you're getting charged with. They usually do. But you don't have to go, they don't have to go out of their way to explain what the definition of obstruction is or resisting is. That's up to the court. Now, if Chille, to provide a person of ordinary intelligence such as Mr. DeCastro, if he can't understand that, is Chille ordinary intelligence or slightly less? You know, put a mark in the comments. Okay, here we go. More vague and ambiguous. Again, just he's going on both charges here, if you're wondering. Again, trying to video evidence depicts officer becoming agitated. Doesn't show that. 21-foot rule. There's no 21-foot rule. It's a guideline police training. Fortunately, the video clearly shows DeCastro complied by backing up a few feet into another parking space as outlined in the pavement. No, he backed up, went sideways one step, and then went 2 steps the other way. He went sideways. He didn't back up at all. And that is clearly on the video. In the video, the officer requesting assistance in the situation because it did not appear to know how to proceed with DeCastro's antics. No, that's standard practice when you've got one officer and more than one person to deal with. And definitely when you've got an agitated person, an unknown person. I wonder what would have happened, and he didn't say expedite. If you notice, if you ever watched that part, when he called for some extra units. He didn't ask them to expedite, which we would have thought he would be in danger. He just asked for help. And usually that's just, you know, if he gets stupid enough, there's someone else to help him. Remember, Chille is the great MMA, gonna beat everyone down type. I'm sorry, I'm just shaking my head reading this. You probably can hear the rattle. Okay. Now, okay, this is the part where he tries to go after the judge. On set of the relatively brief trial, the trial judge repeatedly chastised DeCastro. Almost immediately, the trial court twice warns DeCastro regarding his behavior. Now, Chille's behavior started over an hour before the trial started. He was sitting on the bench, his feet on the bench, using his phone, behind a sign that said no phones, no videotaping. So right there, he's that's a court order. So he also, I assume that the judge was warned that he had a habit or known Chille's videos. His own videos show him recording. Now, the trial begins with the court announcing the granting of 2 media requests. Neither one of those was Chille's. And the judge probably did see Chille's very own videos, because she did say that she had looked at them, of him surreptitiously recording trials, even when he says, "Oh, I'm not recording," and then continues to do so. So why would the judge, after seeing the behavior before, decide that all of a sudden Chille's going to be a good boy and not do anything? And you notice he did have both phones on still. He didn't turn them off like he was requested to. And as soon as they were on, I believe that's the point when the judge asked to surrender his phones. And, you know, Chille has to get, you know, female judge can't let things slide. You already are. Want to be part of your YouTube? You already are. And then, of course, calls the marshal a pig. And the judge did mention contempt and jail time, as we know, but he didn't get it. So the judge states, "I need you to empty your pockets to suit pack. This is legal violation." No, that's a court order. You surrendered your rights when you entered the courtroom. The trial court also specifically ordered defense counsel to turn off his phone. I don't believe that's true. I believe they asked him to mute it. Even so, he didn't seem to mind. Okay, now are you going into due process bias again? Actual bias. I did make a note here. And you back into this. Without having to show the bias case, the trial judge began the proceedings by singling DeCastro out for a search. Because he had his phones on still. Because he wouldn't turn them off even when asked directly by the judge before it started. This order may well have been based on a letter received by the court claiming DeCastro be filling procedures, or, like I said, directly from his videos showing that he would do it anyway, regardless of what he told the judge. The trial court should have disqualified herself. The trial court should have disqualified herself based on implied bias. What bias? She was making sure no one was recording that wasn't allowed to. This openly contentious proceedings are captured in the transcript and on video. We all saw it. It wasn't the judge, it was Chille. Now here's where he starts throwing me under the bus. Counsel's performance fell below objective standard of reasonableness. Counsel's errors were so severe they rendered the verdict unreliable. And it goes into a bunch of stuff that is a bunch of stuff. This requires showing the counsel errors were so serious to deprive a defendant of a fair trial, whose result is reliable. So let's see what he says caused it. Due to violations, dismissing counts due to violations of freedom of speech, freedom of press. So, because he wasn't allowed to film in courtroom, he needs to get this dismissed. You know, he's back to arguing that he was arrested for filming the cop. As demonstrated super in the instant case, Mr. DeCastro's filming of law enforcement officers and critical comments made toward the officer were constitutionally protected. Again, you can film, but back up. Ineffective assistance of trial due to failure of trial to file pretrial motion dismissing count 1 and 2. Now, Chille was sitting in the courtroom instead of going to his meeting with me pre-trial. So it's quite possible me didn't have a clue what Chille was going to say or what Chille wanted. Obviously, me was trying to defend him based on the case he had. Chille was trying to defend himself based on the case he didn't. Anyway, we'll keep going here because we're getting near the end and I want to quit. Ineffective counsel when counsel failed to admit video evidence. Upon review of the video footage captured by DeCastro of an encounter with Bork, the evidence shows DeCastro was neither obstructing a public officer nor resisting arrest, as charged by the state. In fact, the video evidence shows DeCastro is practicing his constitutionally protected rights by filming an officer within 10 feet as protected by clearly established federal law. What federal law says you can film within 10 feet? And the video shows him obstructing, and the resisting part was basically when they were trying to get him just to comply. Turn around and face the car. He kept turning around. Remember how his ulnar nerve was permanently damaged because the officer kept squeezing it and so forth and so on, yet Chille was suing for $5 million and couldn't be bothered to get a medical test to show the permanent nerve damage. Remember that one? Anyway, the video evidence at that point is from multiple directions, and it shows Chille twisting and turning, not being compliant, not just standing there. That's all he had to do, was just stand there. He could have talked to the windshield, could have talked to the cop, but no, he's got to turn and face him. Even when he's told, don't, just face the car. That's where he got the resisting charge. Nothing to do with his violation of constitutional rights. Well, this, thank God, is at the end of this dumpster fire of an appeal. So I invite you to think it over. And I've done this slow enough, you probably can read the stupid thing. I'll probably put a link to the original document if you like in the description. But remember, Chille was charged with obstruction and resisting. And obstruction is basically just stopping the cop from doing his job. Resisting is the same thing but physically. The obstruction charge was when he interfered with the traffic stop. The resisting charge was when he wasn't being compliant and was twisting and turning and physically going against lawful orders. It's as simple as that. He was told he could film. Just back up. So, did Chille argue anything that makes sense here? And I do say Chille because I don't think Oram had anything at all to do with this thing. It's poorly written. There's mistakes through the whole thing. And the case citations are just out there. Typical Chille stuff, not related. Wrong districts, wrong courts, so forth, so on. So I think this, like I said it before, I think this one is basically going to get dismissed before it even gets to the date. But we'll find out. stop this thing, I'll be quite happy.
And there was much rejoicing.
I never know. I never know.
You can't make this shit up.